Wait to make sure. Hello, I am LioConvoy, and this is Coyote Lovely, and we are here to have a little bit of fun. And that thing echoed a bit, so I got to cut that out later.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we're just here to have a pretty good time at the expense of, well, you can probably guess who. Just give me one moment. I'm going to tweet out a link to the stream on Twitter.
All right. I hope everybody's doing well in the chat today. Hello, Baishi. I agree. Gamer. Now, while Coyote's doing that, real quick, this is streaming both on my channel and his, because, might as well share content on this. A few things. We're covering Antoons' response primarily to Daft Pina. We can go over a little bit of the drama. Coyote has a better grip of that than I do. But if this goes down, it's because Antoons has been copyright striking people left and right, apparently at random. I don't know if that's because he doesn't want the criticism, or if he's trying to pull some really dumb op, hoping that because when you strike somebody, they send the person you strike your address, or if he's just being stupid and trying to do some dumb op where somebody doxes him and he gets to play victim. I don't know what. But yeah, we're going to get into this soon. We're going to play his video and we're going to comment on it. Very transformative, very fair use. But hello, Baiji, Ben Maza, Greek Saiyan, Little Riddle, Hideki Nishi, Outer Dimensions. So yes. Yes, copyright infringement, either because the fees are hurt or because he's pulling some really weird op. I don't really know which.
Yeah, I think for the most part, it's just based on the DMs that I saw get leaked before his Twitter got yeeted. Because one of the people that he copyright struck, the conversation that he had was that with that person was that it was fair use, and Antoons recognized that it was fair use based on those DMs. And he had responded by saying, this is faster than a privacy complaint or anything like that. And the person said, okay, but it's fair use. So will you revoke the strike? And he said, no. So he knows this is actual abuse of the copyright system. And as far as the drama that initially happened, just to give you a quick spark notes of it, he got into some drama with another, comic on Twitter, like comic artist. They had about 40K followers. I think their name is Puppy-chan. And essentially he made some really questionable comments about predominantly around the crotchal region, which the comments are really questionable because Puppy-chan was 17 years old. I don't know if they're still 17. I think their birthday happened recently, or it will happen recently, one of the two. But at the time, they were a minor, and Antoons was almost twice their age, being early 30s. So kind of a weird one. We're going to give it at least one yike, possibly two. We're going to see where that goes. And effectively, Daft Pina made a video talking about Antoons, whether he's a tracer and whether he's racist. That all, went down. Antoons decided to really steer into the drama, which was kind of ill-advised. More and more people were starting to get involved, and eventually his Twitter did get yeeted, but not until, I think, Manga Common, Just Stop, and this other YouTuber, their name, I can't fucking pronounce it. It's like I and then like 5 Z's, then Y, then 5 more Z's or some shit. I really don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know their name. But they had about 30K subscribers. So they're spreading to a lot of people with decently sized audiences, and it's starting to turn to sort of a Streisand effect. But mostly what we're going to be looking at here and responding to is Antoons' really, really terrible response to Daft Pina's video.
Now, I generally don't talk about politics as a whole on my channel. And Riddle, yeah, I see that you're in Antoons server. How you get in these places is beyond me. But if we do have questions, I'm sure you'll be able to field them. My general view on politics is not something I tend to discuss on this channel. We all know what I generally cover here. But this dude's so far out of pocket that we're going to address some things here. I'm not going to make any blanket statements about any one specific political party other than, in general, I, again, politically identify as angry. I'm going to talk specifically about Antoons himself. All right? So I want to be very clear about that. Now, in terms of the tweet he made towards Puppy-chan, he made a question about what genitals they were born with. Now, the excuse that we'll see here is he was asking if this person was trans, but there's about 5 other different ways you can ask that without specifically inquiring about genitals. But we're going to go ahead and start this video, and we're going to go through it. If you guys need me to adjust any volumes, just tell me, and we'll go from there, okay? Okay.
Also, I just want to quickly point out to both our audiences, as you mentioned earlier, we're streaming live to both audiences, so there will be points intermittently where we will mute the call that we are in, so we can address any super chats. We can address our own independent audiences, individually. That way, it doesn't get confusing for everybody on either end. Just to let you guys know that's going to be a thing that happens. And I'm also personally, because I am still on his channel, LioConvoys, I'm going to be cleaning up my language at least a little bit for this. I'm going to try to make a little bit. Oh, yeah, no problem. I'm going to try to make at least some kind of gamer jokes.
All right, so we're going to start playing in 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, this is Anton, and let's cut to the chase. I think at least some of you know about Deft Pina. If you do not, Deft, real name Ryan Burke, is a YouTuber and commentator. He mostly commentates on artists and the YouTube animation community. He mainly covers storytime animators, but has looked at other types of artists as well. He will critique them and suggest how they could improve on their craft. It was these videos that got me hooked, so I did watch him for some time. He would even try to call people out if they appeared to be tracing, which did garner him some special attention and praise. Naturally, Deft Pina would focus on the tracing topic more often in future videos, seeming to thrive on drama much of the time. So of course, when a thread on Twitter was made disparaging me for tracing, Deft, to his credit, politely asked me to take part in his video. I knew it would involve a tracing controversy based on his videos in the past, so I accepted the invitation, knowing that I would need to defend myself. But I should mention, what was it that sparked the controversy in the first place? Well, it started with a new side project I had been teasing on Twitter. Takes comic artists from Twitter, mainly political comics, so red-pilled artists, blue-pilled artists, and artists in between, and pits them against each other in a fighting game. The game did use...
Why it's not pausing? Okay, I just want to pause right here real quick and just state outright my political affiliations. I don't really care so much about the political side of any of this. Like, I know that you mentioned that, Leo. For the most part, I'm here to talk about all the questionable shit Antoons is personally doing. However people politically identify or what they believe, that's their business. I'm just here to talk about Antoons.
And about that, concerning this game itself, I found it, of course, raunchy. But more importantly, there's other aspects here, too. If you're going to do a game involving a bunch of other people's characters, which we'll see a little bit later on, there's probably going to be a whole bunch of copyright issues there that I'm pretty sure he didn't think through. Not completely sure, but is this game edgy and gross? It absolutely is. It's not something I would ever want to play, not something I would ever make. He's welcome to make whatever he wants, but we're also welcome to comment on it and say that we think it's ridiculous. So
actually, I wanted to make a comment right now, because I know, at least to the best of my awareness, based on conversations I've had with people who were friends with Antoons and Squirrely Jack are not on good terms at all. So it's very strange, like this screen that we're seeing. I don't know if he actually got permission to have Squirrely Jack in there. I don't know if he, paid for any kind of rights to it. But as you're going to see, he's going to have his own character chopping off Squirrely Jack's penis. And it's one of those things that I really question if he had I don't know, if he had any kind of permission, if they were okay with it, what the situation was around this. It's very, very bizarre to me, especially considering these two are not at all on good terms.
Well, it's also in really poor taste, but hello to Plastic Girl, Shinobi 1, Mari Akutsu, and Artistic Layman, good friend of mine. Let's continue here, because we're probably going to have some long points before we can really comment on anything, so please excuse our silence, but let's continue.
Images to match the characters being represented, but only just about one image for each character.
Okay. As an artist, not the best artist, all right, clearly have a long way to go. If you want to understand how a character works, you don't trace the character. You do some character studies. This is common. I'm working on a comic right now for an indie publisher concerning another property, and they gave me the list of characters I need to work on this comic, and they asked me, hey, first, can you do some character studies so you can get a decent grip on them? And that's what I had to do. That's what any decent artist will do. He's going to make excuses overall about how tracing is okay in these circumstances. I'll say this, tracing is okay when you are just learning or practicing. When you're putting out something polished, something finished, no. And that doesn't just go for him, because I know what he's going to do. He's going to pivot and say, well, he's going to move into whataboutisms. What about this guy? What about that? I don't care who we're talking about. We could be talking about Bruce Timm. Matter of fact, perfect example. Butch Hartman pulled this nonsense, and it wasn't okay then either. So no, it doesn't matter who's doing it. It's all nonsense.
I actually wanted to weigh in as well. My personal opinion, I'm not a good artist, but I have, done art in the past. I've been commissioned once or twice. Not great. Mostly traditional, but whatever. Personally, my stance on tracing is if you're doing it just for yourself, you're not going to post it anywhere. If it's a piece that you just want to make for you and not just to have something nice, and you're not really going to take credit for anything, you're not going to post it anywhere, I say, you know what, go nuts. At that point, in my opinion, it's like a kid with a coloring book. You're just kind of tracing it. And like Leo here said, if you're just doing it to sort of get the hang of like the character's like shape when you're first starting out, that's fine too. Just be aware some people may not appreciate it. So it's useful to actually, figure that out beforehand. I'd recommend starting off with like bases and stuff like that. Those are usually, there's plenty of them around. But like tracing so that you can do like an animation for profit, especially when you start to get a lot of traction and, silver play button YouTube or almost gold play button. At that point, it's just, in my opinion, not only not okay, but downright embarrassing.
Yes, and speaking of tracing, why don't we go ahead and make this clear point? Talking about bases, talking about templates. The Greg face, right, that I put out there, that's a template. When I first got a hold of it, I freehanded the eyes, the mouth, the basic stuff. Everything else is sketched in from raw, right? So if you look at the Coyote Lovely and the LioConvoy here, similar mouth shapes. There are some differences, obviously, but everything else is completely different. There are times when you can do templates, when you can do XYZ things, but what he's done here is not that. What he's done here is I've traced every single one of these characters, and I'm going to use it as an excuse instead of just... He could even have done this in his own style, and instead he just traced it. But let's go ahead and continue on.
The example of what I used, the one that got most attention, was an image of a certain comic creator on the blue pill side. I traced that as the base for the model in the mock-up trailer, but after that all the animation bits, like his attacks, were original. The only reason I traced one image was to make sure their representation looked recognizable, and once...
Okay, again, recognizability, what you're talking about is the squint test. You can do that in your own style without having to trace. And the fact that you can do all these in-betweens, the fact that you can do all this individual independent animation, you're underselling yourself in that by saying, I needed to do X. You didn't need to. You're better than that.
Yeah, I think for the most part, that's just a cop-out to try to cover up the fact that he was just doing it to expedite the process. If you can make all these in-between frames and, make it recognizable through those in-between frames, you could clearly do the reference of him just standing there, without using, like, tracing. That's something you could obviously do if you can do the animations part of it.
Yeah, and again, back to the squint test. Like, all right, let's take a classic example. Optimus Prime. Everybody knows who Optimus Prime looks like. So I could take Optimus Prime from Generation 1, or I could do it from Transformers Animated, or from Transformers Prime, or the Bay films. They still have similar elements. They have the covered mouth, they have the same color scheme, they have the window chest, they have the grill ab area, they have blue hands, they have a rifle. Like, all of these still pass squint tests regardless of how different their designs are and how different the styles are. So this is an excuse. And here's the thing, he's not a completely unskilled artist. He clearly does, especially in animation. So you screwed up. You got stupid about it. Don't be stupid about it. All right, moving on.
Once I got it down, I made the rest of the work from scratch. Of course, the people who already have a problem with me, the game, or both, have been trying to find ways to ruin my passion and get me to lose the support I have gathered over the years.
Okay, that's stating intent. You really don't know. Maybe they just really don't like you tracing. That could just very well be it. Oh my god.
Yeah, oh my god. This dude, he is going hard into the victim narrative. It's so strange. Like, it's a problem he created for himself, and he's going directly into this victim narrative. I don't understand it.
All right, but we'll get into that a little bit further because we're gonna piece that apart. But you're not wrong in your statement here that he's trying to pull the victim narrative. So let's continue.
The few people that noticed the similarities with the picture and the animation stated that everything should be done from scratch and began campaigning the idea that tracing is wrong, no matter who does it. It spilled out to other people saying that even my animation videos are stealing artwork because many of the characters are traced. To be fair, there are quite a few people who feel that tracing on the internet is wrong, no matter what. So since a few of these groups got into an uproar about the supposed evils of tracing, DefPina took notice of the thread and gained an interest in making a video about me. He retweeted the thread and in no time at all messaged me on Twitter about the video. We set up a time and day to talk on Discord, and he ended up only using maybe 6 minutes of what was a 6-hour conversation.
Yes.
Sorry, can you... Thank you. I just wanted to say something right now. When you do an interview with somebody, you're not going to have the entire conversation put into the final product. When it comes to interviews for videos, for the most part, they're only going to talk about what is related to the topic, what is relevant. I've done a couple interviews for videos as well, and usually they go between 45 minutes to an hour and a half. And more often than not, most of it winds up on the cutting room floor, unless it actually is pertinent information that the interview needs to be presented in its context, obviously, in that video. So saying that he only used 6 minutes of a 6-hour interview, that's standard. Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, not just that. He went on about how supposed evils of tracing. So he's clearly setting up this narrative that tracing's not that bad. But to my knowledge, and we'll have to go through, of course, we're going to go through the whole thing. He never makes a case that it's not. Where's his counter argument? Making a victim of yourself's one thing, but if you're saying this isn't that bad, you actually have to make an argument about it, and it has to be a cohesive, rational one. And so far, we haven't seen that. So far, what he's done is bellyache and gripe about the fact that he got feedback that he didn't like. So let's continue.
In those 6 hours, it slowly dawned on me that tracing was not his main target. That was just the appetizer. It then slowly became clear to me that this video may not end up being a fair assessment.
Okay, how does it slowly dawn on you after 6 hours? 6 hours. It's almost a full workday, my dude. How does something slowly dawn on you for something like that?
Yeah, it's... What, and then I don't even know what his metric is for a quote-unquote fair assessment. What is a fair assessment in his eyes? One that makes him look good, one that makes, is very honest and open about what happened and events that transpired in the most unbiased way possible. That's what I would consider a fair assessment, and that's what it seems like DefPina did. He gave the fairest assessment possible. So my question is, what does he define as a fair assessment, and what did DefPina fail to do? Which I think, hopefully he'll explain in this video. I'm not sure he will, but I'm hoping that he'll try to give his interpretation of a fair assessment. I'm really hopeful.
Well, we're about to find out here in a little bit, aren't we? Let's continue.
Pina's whole feeling, which was definitely intact in his video, was that artists like Stone Toss and Mr. Pumpkin Face essentially groomed me into being like them, radicalizing me to be a tracist, as some have put it. I should mention, though, that while we do talk outside of Twitter and behind...
Can you pause? Oh, thank you. He grooms them every day.
Oh, no. Don't you stop.
I just wanted to throw that out there for the memes. For the memes! All right, let's continue.
All right, so real quick, he's claiming Daft is making the case that they groom me for this. All right, so do you have a counter argument here? Do you have statements that say, well, here's why he's wrong? Let's find out. Let's find out if he does.
The scenes, we are not as close as Deft portrayed, and if he does still think so, then how come he never got in touch himself with Mr. Pumpkin Face and Stone Toss for an interview? So I would say they didn't really groom me like Deft thinks.
That's not a counter argument. Counter argument of being groomed isn't, or being, for lack of a better word, ultimately, I wouldn't even say groomed. I would say you were influenced, if anything. I haven't looked at his full history. Here's what I want to get at here, just real quick, and then I'll let you go, Coyote. Saying we're not as close and he didn't reach out to them isn't a counter argument about him thinking they influenced you. That's not what that is. That's not what that is. Go ahead, Coyote.
Not only that, he's conflating this level of journalism with what commentary is. So at the end of the day, DefPina is a commentary channel, and what that is they give the information with their opinion. So even though I believe he gave a fair and equitable analysis, he's still not required to meet some standards that journalism might actually want him to meet, such as interviewing Stone Toss and Mr. Pumpkinface. At the end of the day, it is his channel, and he's not required to reach out to them if he feels like their input is not pertinent information to what he was talking about, which is whether or not Antoons here is a racist or a tracer. The fact that he didn't reach out to them, it's almost like that's just a shield to try to say he didn't do a good enough job to my standards. Well, at the same time, that's not relevant. It doesn't matter if he didn't do it to your standards on that one, because what they had to say on that subject didn't really matter that much.
Correct. Let's continue on here.
These groomer accusations do not hold any weight until actual evidence is presented. But regardless, Deft had shown that after my last animated video involving Corona-chan, I had begun to draw comics. That was mainly to keep my creative juices flowing through the summer, because the summer heat in Estonia makes it difficult for me to animate big projects. Comics felt easier by comparison, and it allowed me to not go into burnout. First artwork I made was Mr. Freaks painting himself in petrol oil to pretend to be a Black Lives Matter member, making fun of how people are all too willing to jump on a bandwagon and help out without knowing all the details.
Isn't Mr. Sneaks like that color in general?
How is that not racist? How is that not racist? How is that not a racist thing to make? I mean, I normally don't go like super hardcore, like, you know, SJW style, but like that sounds pretty like a pretty fucking racist thing to make, you know?
Well, not just that, is his claim is, well, he painted himself in petrol oil, but the character by nature is that pigment. So, what is he trying to say here? Does he dye his fur every day? Is he a furry? What's going on here? But let's continue on and pick this apart.
The image was a surprise hit, so it encouraged me to continue making comics to keep my creative energy alive. Of course, when Def Pina highlighted my comics, he only picked out the ones to support his argument, not any of the comics that showed I make fun of all groups.
Okay.
Oh, that's an image.
Whether or not you make comics that make fun of all groups is irrelevant to the statement being made. If you make fun of white people and you make fun of black people for their ethnicities, especially based on stereotypes, it's still racism. It doesn't matter if you make fun of all races. It's still a form of racism. The argument here is so brain dead. Like, did you think this through at all? Did you pass it by a real life friend, or did you just really think this would work? All right, let's continue. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to mention real quick that whole, like, I see a lot of people mentioning the South Park style argument. I make fun of everybody. That works to an extent if you are actually making fun of everybody with no discretion. And the reason why that works for South Park is because it doesn't matter even if their employees are offended. They will make something that will even offend their employees and actors, no matter what the consequence, because they're fair and equitable in that regard. There's no bias. They make fun of literally everything. But when you show some kind of bias by having a history of predominantly focusing on specific things, where there's more actual things you can point to about specific groups, even if you're making things targeting everybody, if there's just an overwhelming number of things towards specific things, yeah, that's a little bit prejudicial.
And I want to just go ahead and state here, all right, I'm gonna do a comparison here. I want to be very clear. I am not calling Antoons this. I am not saying he is one. But this argument is similar to something that we heard from Vita concerning Mint, the girl he preyed on. Well, you only remember the bad times. What about all the good times? You only remember the times where I preyed on you and manipulated. You don't remember all the times we sat and had memes and laughs. That's the same type of argument. I don't know if Antoons is a kid diddler. I don't think he is. We have no evidence for that. And I'm not going to make that claim. My point is, it's the same type of argument. Well, he's only showing what supports his argument. Well, duh. Because this is the argument he's making about your actions. So he's going to show the evidence that supports that specific action. What you're doing here is fallacy of logic, or a fallacy of privation, right? I can't remember the exact name for it, but well, you're talking about this, but not that. Doesn't matter. This is his topic, therefore that's what he's going to talk about.
I think we should probably continue. This image is making me a little bit uncomfortable.
Same.
Made fun of gamers, neckbeards, even Christians, so I'm not picking favorites or as biased as...
Okay, but you made fun of Christians in an attempt to make fun of trans people. Like, come on, man. You're very bad at this. You're very bad at this.
I'm pretty sure if we actually like freeze frame like his examples, you can actually see that there are other people in addition who are the butt of the joke. While similarly, they still have their own comics dedicated specifically to them. So it's like this is a flawed example, you know? Like this is a
Here, let me see if I can get it paused
terrible
right.
fucking
There we
example
go.
to his defense.
Like,
Yeah,
all right.
there's one right there.
Okay, so in his comic about, well, I made fun of Christians. Well, you made fun of Christians in so much as to point out that you're going to make fun of trans people now too, which I'm a Bible thumper. We all know this, but what you're making fun of here isn't about these groups or shouldn't be about these groups. The self-righteousness should be the point here. Not whether or not somebody's Christian or whether or not somebody's trans. The point you should be making, which you failed to do utterly here, is paranoia and self-righteousness isn't a good thing. And you failed.
But yeah, like this comic right here, it literally just, in my opinion, it makes my position of like the South Park argument failing. I think this kind of validates it because yes, he does make fun of a different group, but it's only to make fun of a group that he's already independently making fun of in other comics as the punchline. So like this doesn't play. You're not being an egalitarian in this sense where I make fun of everybody. No, you make fun of people so long as you can make fun of others as well, which are others who are getting their own specific comics dedicated to them. It's completely prejudicial, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, though.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's continue.
Christians, so I'm not picking favorites or as biased as you may think I am. Of course, since these people see race in everything, people thought that Mr. Sneaks was a caricature of a black man. He was my online avatar until my icon on YouTube suddenly disappeared with no explanation. So I'm not too surprised that people on Twitter and Reddit shouted racist as soon as they saw the character. The very first...
I wonder why. You're being very tongue-in-cheek here, man. I mean, I don't usually call racism unless it's really, really solid. But what are you doing, man? What are you doing? You're not clever. I'm sorry, but you're not. Well, this black character that I made that is making fun of people who either support black people or making fun of black people, he's totally not racist. Now, maybe he wasn't made as a caricature, but art evolves, and your art has evolved to where that is his... It seems to be his point now. So, what are you doing, man? What are you doing?
This feels like he's with his comics. It's like trying to use when Leafy made like those cancer commentary videos that were just making fun of people. It feels like he's trying to use like the satire defense without really understanding what satire is. It's like, this is satire. It's clever. It's a joke. But is it though? Do you know what that word means?
He does not. But let's continue.
First Mr. Sneaks comic I posted on Reddit was instantly banned. Of course, as Death Pina was unmoving on his preconceived notions about me, he also saw Mr. Sneaks as a representation of a black man. But Mr. Sneaks is not meant to represent black people at all. He may have dated a black woman and dressed in hip-hop styled clothing sometimes, but he is still very much not a human, and therefore not a representation of the black community.
The point isn't whether or not he's a representation. The point is that you use him as a punchline to make fun of either black people or people who support what black people go through.
Actually, I actually want to point out something real quick as well. I'm not sure if he showed this comic yet, but he does show it in this video, where Mr. Sneaks does like rob somebody's house, and then they immediately, like after like handing him a face mask.
Yeah, they just showed it.
Okay, then they state, have we paid off our white privilege yet? And at that point, that completely contradicts the sentence he just said, where it's not a stereotype of the black community. It's like, well, given the context that you just showed in that comic, it seems like you're trying to have it both ways. He can be a representation of that community if you want him to be, but he can also not be a representation if it's to your argument's advantage. So it feels like he's trying to have it both ways here. It's wildly disingenuous. You need to pick a lane and stand by it.
Agreed. Let's continue.
If you're thinking that black-colored characters are the only people who date black women and wear hip-hop-like clothing, what do you think that says about how you view black people? But getting back to the top...
It's literally a fucking no you. I'm not racist. No, you racist. You see racist things. You racist. Grug, not racist. You racist.
You're the real racist. Now let me go do another comic making fun of black people because you're a racist. Fantastic. Beautiful. 10 out of 10. Let's continue.
I have even made a special comic related to this race confusion. You
want to comment on this? All right. So, dude gives him money, thinking he's black. Finds out he's not a human. Calls him a racist Nazi. And he comes in and he says he prefers Japanese games. Preferring Japanese games isn't a racial thing. Are you stupid?
Yeah.
Are you mentally stunned? No,
That's-
seriously. How do you, as a comic writer, I want to be, hold on. You had to script this. You had to do thumbnails for it. Then you had to draw it out in a sketch. Then you had to finalize the sketch. Then you had to ink it. Then you had to color it. Then you had to post it. You had several times here where you could have said, you know what, this is a really dumb argument or comic to make. And you didn't. This is not any sort of thing commenting on or in being indicative of racism. This is a preference in the types of video games he likes to play.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, if you only play Japanese games, maybe you just like JRPGs more than regular RPGs. I mean, if some people like Dark Souls more than they like Skyrim, I imagine they're probably going to want to play more JRPGs than they are going to want to play something like, I don't know, Fallout. Like, this is completely just broken logic, because he's trying to equate, racism with fucking having a preference in product, like a tangible item you can purchase so that you can entertain yourself. That's so... I can't.
Let's continue. This will be amusing.
This comic showed a gamer who noticed that Mr. Sneaks has a tail and therefore is not a black man. He's just pretending to be one. He's called Mr. Sneaks for a reason. He's mischievous and greedy and will do anything to get rich quick. So of course he'll use any opportunity like this to his advantage until he gets caught. And note that I have similar looking characters that are not black colored, but would also do naughty things similar to what Mr. Sneaks does. There was also a poster I had that advertised my Mr. Sneaks plushies. It was a spoof on Black Lives Matter, instead saying plush toys matter.
Okay, you're saying this guy can't be a racist caricature because I have other characters isn't a counter argument, and he's not a racist caricature. Now, here's a promo where I make fun of Black Lives Matter using a black character.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's kind of hilarious, and I don't even begrudge that laughter, because it's kind of hilarious that he's trying to say this isn't a representation of a black character, but in the promo for this, it's a spoof on Black Lives Matter. It's like, bro, you are trying to have it so far both ways that I don't accept this. This man, he is just fucking wow, dude. I can't even.
Like, there was an episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I can't remember what the issue was, but Meatwad was doing something to annoy Master Shake, and Master Shake says, knock that off. Meatwad's like, all right, I'll stop. I won't do it again. But hold on, I'm going to do it again. And that's the entire mentality on here. I'm not using it as a black caricature, but hold on. Let me make a racist comic with him again. All right, so continuing on here.
The joke being he happens to be colored black, therefore he matters. Death Pina seems to have a habit of cherry-picking what to show to represent me a certain way. I know cherry-picking might be seen as a loaded term, but here are some things Deft failed to even make a quick mention about. I made a character that was actually meant to represent African Americans, and he was Mr. Leaves. He was just another member of the cast I had.
That's a whataboutism, Antoons. And you're literally using him.
Hold on. Let's look at this.
Go ahead. I want you to. I know what you're seeing here.
I was just going to point out this fucking comic. He's literally showing. I don't know what that character is called, but he's using him as a literal shield from being called a racist. What the hell? You can't be real. You can't be sitting there seriously saying I can't be a racist. And this is your example. You can't. I don't. He's got to be taking the piss.
There's meta commentary. This has got to be meta commentary. I'm not gonna. I don't believe I'm racist, but here I'm gonna use my black character as a racist, as a shield against racism, by showing you this comic where another character of mine uses him as a shield against racism. It is amazing in its stupidity.
This is big brain time.
Big brain time.
This is big brain time.
Big brain. All right, let's go ahead.
Created. Death Pina, however, never showed him off, even though he was in multiple comic strips. I even made a few.
Because it's stupid. Because it's not a point. Because it doesn't disprove what he's saying. It enforces it. Doofus.
Comics where trans people were shown positively, like one where a sim caricature is defending a trans person.
Okay, want to go ahead and address this? What this comic is, it's called a straw man. It's a straw man, meaning you have made an argument here that isn't what normal people would make an argument about. just so you can knock it down and say, haha, aren't I clever? I beat this argument. An argument that's not being made. It's a straw man. You're an idiot. I had trans characters being portrayed positively in my comic, therefore I have done no wrong, you moron. Alright, continuing.
Hold on. I just want to mention real quick, even if you portray a trans character being, even if you portray them positively every now and again, it doesn't suddenly negate how many times you portray them negatively. Like, when you have an overwhelming majority of comics that are portraying an ethnicity, gender identity, or anything else in the world in a negative fashion, just because you make a handful that portray them in a positive fashion, it doesn't negate that you've done all of the negative things. Like, acting like that should all just karmically balance out when there's so much imbalance there and inequity. It's just, oh my shit, dude. Are you fucking he can't be real. I refuse to accept he's a real human being.
Real human being. All right, continuing.
Never bothered to look
I refuse to accept
any
it.
of the other examples either. But as of right now, I'm done with comics, and I have stated this back in August. Maybe there will be a season 2. I don't know. But Deft seemed to have ignored that as well. But
whether or not you continue comics wasn't the point of his video, dummy.
I'm not
I feel like he completely missed every single point and decided to selectively warp what was being said in his mind into what this response is trying to address. Because he had to have watched the video but missed every point and then tried to reorganize it in his mind to fit somehow. I don't understand how he makes the leaps he does to make these arguments, but this is just a trash fire, just a fucking trash fire.
Continue.
More for the rest of the year. Deft also did not mention that the creators of Zooptoon and Anxiety Demon are openly bisexual and gay. Also the fact that the creator of the new guy meme Sweet Beans is trans, and who has even 2 characters in my game.
Because it's irrelevant. It's not indicative of you not being a terrible person.
Not only that, did Sweet Beans actually endorse the use of the characters in your game? That's my question as well. That's not going to do your argument any service unless unless Sweet Beans had say in this. Otherwise, it's not really helpful in any way or even pertinent.
Also, I want to be very clear here. I don't like Sweet Beans. I find Sweet Beans to be repugnant as an individual from a moral level. But
and that's fair. And I personally, I find Sweet Beans to. Sorry, I just want to mention I find Sweet Beans to be fairly annoying. Same thing with Squirrely Jack, who I brought up earlier, but it doesn't negate the fact that they should have some level of input if their characters are being used.
Well, not just that. I find it ironic, right? Everybody got mad at Sweet Beans for doing a comic endorsing theft. I did a counter comic for it, right? And this idiot goes and steals a character! You moron! What are you doing, man? What are you doing?
You think he traced that new guy right there? I'm not sure new guy would approve. That's not very new guy of you, Antoons. That's not 2 cash money.
Oh my god, let's continue.
The new guy and the Sweet Beans self-insert. So there is clearly some diversity in the game.
Nobody's arguing about whether or not your goofy little game has diversity. They're arguing about the moral ethics of your character. You, as a person.
They're also arguing about...
Go ahead.
They're also arguing about if it's actually okay, which, in my opinion, no, it's never going to be okay for you to put a character in there that shoots blood out of their crotch when they're a 17-year-old.
Oh,
so that's what they're really arguing. They're not arguing anything else.
He has a brilliant counter-argument for that. You're going to love it, Coyote. So let's continue on.
Created. Maybe you don't care about these omissions, but Deft leaving them out of the video says to me that he is not trying to inform people, just make them think the worst of me. So having said my...
Buddy, Daft doesn't need to help people think the worst of you. You, like every other human being on this planet, you're your own worst enemy. Your lack of awareness is part of that problem. I don't know how young you are, but whoo! Oh, hold on. Excuse me. $10 super chat from Bankman. Thank you. Hater Lio just popping in to say hi. I'd love to stay, but I have to catch another stream to Beyond. Catch you later. Doggone it. This wannabe artist, and I use that term lightly, makes my brain hurt. Welcome. That's how we all feel. Continuing.
Piece on the race and phobia issues, let's move on to the tracing part now, since that is a bigger deal for me, even if the other topics weren't wrapped around with it. I don't entirely disagree with the negatives of tracing, but I do think that it is blown out of proportion. So let me explain. I started doing parodies when I made Sonic's deathbed, after feeling heartbroken from the games that came out about him at the time. It gained the most attention I had ever received for any of my videos, so I made sequels and spin-offs that were variants of the initial video. I made it this way because I was inspired by the Ctrl-Alt-Delete comic Loss, which became very infamous and led to people making their own version of the comic. Of course, people would use these videos as examples of what is considered traced, but for the most part, only the general designs from the Sonic adventure.
Okay, I've got to comment on a couple things here. Okay. Number one, you're 10 years behind on Sonic having bad games that should make you think he's dying. You were 10 years behind on that. Secondly.
Yeah.
Just give me a moment. Secondly, people find the Lost comic funny because it was a goofy, random, lol humor gamer comic that tried to do a heel turn into serious drama, and it hit like a ton of bricks that made no sense. That's why it's funny. Not because a character had a stillbirth, but because of how absolutely, like, mitten-handed, gloves-on it was, and how badly it was handled. Go ahead, Coyote.
Yeah, no, that's why it's funny when you see the meme. Is that Lost? Like whenever you see like just different versions of it. It's not just. I guess there's nothing really to add there. I guess I don't really have much to add.
Let's continue.
Games are used. All the animation frames in the video were unique, just like in the Pill Fighter game. It does take a lot more skill and effort than most people realize to make the in-betweens within the video. Because of the initial in-betweens I had the characters do in the first deathbed, it could actually be considered transformative, not truly degrading my drawing skills and not really tracing if it was only one general image of a character.
Nobody's arguing about your skill.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
To address that, even if you did not trace in between frames, even if you only trace certain things for a reference, it's still not an inaccurate statement to say you have traced in your work. So calling you a tracer is simply a statement of fact. It's like Brad Pitt said when he was playing Achilles in Troy. It's no insult to call a dead man dead. He is dead.
Oh my god. All right, so let's continue.
Now you may say that because I traced at all, it is still a terrible thing to do because I'm using someone else's work. Well, if tracing is that horrible, even if it's in a parody or a fan video, then why did the official aka Cartoon Inc. Facebook page post my Ed and Eddie parody video?
That's a whataboutism. Nobody cares. Just because other people...
This is like... Hold on.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your point.
Oh, my point was, if my neighbor doesn't like cats being gutted on his yard, that doesn't mean it's okay to gut a cat on somebody's yard. It's a stupid point. Go ahead.
Yeah, just because AKA Cartoons Facebook page, I don't even know what that is. I don't know if it's an important thing. But just because they post a link to your video and say that it's apparently awesome, that doesn't suddenly mean you have a ring...
Do we just lose Coyote?
Guys, hold on. Guys in chat, can you see me? Okay, it's reconnected. Sorry about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
But just because, and I'm sorry about that on Leo's stream. Just because these guys say that this is awesome doesn't mean you have an infinite get out of jail free card to just say, oh, I can trace now. That's fine. And it's just like these guys say that it's fine. It's like, who the fuck are they? Who cares? I don't care. I don't think it's fine. A lot of people don't think it's fine. This isn't just permission to do it indefinitely.
Correct. But let's see what other asinine arguments he has.
Video twice. Surely they noticed the traced elements in the video, yet they had no issues with it. Are they in the wrong? Are you going to disparage them? Now my own
Yes, to both. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Continuing.
feeling about parodies that use tracing is that it is good to use it in order to get the right feeling for the show. A good parody tries to have you feel like you're watching the original source material, at least in some way.
No, that is not necessarily true of parodies. I don't know where you're getting that from. As much as I dislike him as a person, Ego Raptor's Awesome series is a really good indicator that you can do parodies without looking exactly like the source material. It's almost like people have individual styles and they can utilize it however they want. Holy crap. All right, continuing.
just comedically or satirically exaggerated to some extent. Now let's look at some other creators who made fan parodies of Scooby-Doo and compare them.
Oh, Fred, I think we're lost.
Perhaps we've driven past the house.
You can see that this first example had a few elements that were traced, and he does have a bit of his own style, but was still trying his best to emulate the show. By contrast, Meat Canyon's parody not only did not even try to make it feel like the show, but
Leo,
it just
can you hear me?
looked too ugly to really appreciate, and rather just seemed like he was trying
Continue.
to...
I had some fucking interruptions on my end. I finally got it sorted, so
Oh,
that
sorry.
was unfortunate.
Well,
but
thankfully, you haven't really missed.
It was a wide.
Thankfully, you haven't really missed anything because right now he's going on with whataboutisms of other people's work. So let's continue here.
Random for random is random's sake, except there is no real charm to the randomness in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, it is good to have your own art style, but if you want to parody something, you need to try to have the audience watching the parody feel like they're experiencing the original show, so it's more immersive. Meat Canyon has a habit of doing this, using a grotesque style in his parodies, but his style does work out better when he is making a parody of live-action properties, or even real people, as those aren't normally used in animation. If anything, I think Meat Canyon does a better job at animated parodies when they do not involve animated properties. So again, if you're watching a parody, a good one should give you the illusion that you're actually watching the original show. Like,
Can you tell me why you think that's a good value to have and how in any way, shape, or form it defends your argument about how tracing is a good thing in these aspects? Because, hate to tell you this, buddy, if you go on to Instagram and you find Celesta art, or even called Thundercats art, Celesta has like a perfect grasp of Ronkin Boss's art style for the original Thundercats. Dusan has a good.
I actually wanted.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't realize you were still in the middle of a point. My bad.
You can figure out the key points of an art style to do it without tracing, because that's how cartoons are made. They're made by multiple artists sticking to a guide sheet, a model sheet, and working from there. Your argument is dead in the water by the nature of animation itself. Go ahead, Coyote.
I just want to make a really quick point, and this one's going to be a quote from our favorite family man, Peter Griffin. Oh my God, who the hell cares?
All right. I suppose that's fair. Let's go ahead and continue.
like the parody of The Simpsons by Flash Kids. Pretty much all of the designs in this parody are traced. I think the reason is so it could be as believable as possible, to make you question whether or not you're watching an official Simpsons video. Racist Mario also has quite a bit of traced elements, but if you still think Flash Kids does not trace, I do have other examples of parodies that traced
I don't care about your whataboutisms. I'm simply doing you a courtesy of going through this without cherry picking because I want people to see how dumb your argument is. Timmy stole $20, so I can steal $20 isn't a good argument.
variety
Do you
of
guys
cartoons,
remember? Hold on, can you pause it again?
Yeah.
So you guys remember back in 2017 when the Rice Gum Content Cop came out? This is literally the same kind of argument that Rice Gum tried to use to devalue some of the points iDubbbz made, that other people do this, you should be calling them out. And then immediately the response from iDubbbz, which I think is very applicable in this context, is, this isn't a video about them. What is wrong with you? The fact is, it doesn't matter if he keeps pointing out other people do this, though, other people trace, though, other people have done this, other people have done that. That doesn't matter in this context. This is a video about Antoons, the racist tracer. If it were a video about any one of them, the racist tracer, it would be pertinent information. So nobody gives a shit, a wet, hot shit, that you are pointing out all these people who trace. It doesn't matter. In this context, it is useless information and does nothing to defend your position and does nothing to help you.
All right, real quick, going to address Rogue Scholar in the chat. The point isn't to destroy the guy's channel. The point is, when I see an issue, I address the issue. Unless the owner of the IPs are upset about their assets being reused, I'm not sure why this is an issue. It's about ethics. When you're an artist, especially of that age and caliber, doing this is beyond the pale. It is unacceptable, and it should not be okay. That's why it's an issue. All right, so let's continue here.
characters, objects, or backgrounds. Some of these channels are quite popular on YouTube. Mashed has done this a few times. They went as far as copying an entire sequence for a good chunk of one of their videos. Oni has done it once or twice, Pigbarians has done it, Pymations has done it for a few scenes, Rice Pirate has made one. Really, there is a lot more tracing and parodies than you realize.
Nobody cares because we're talking about you. And here's the kicker. If we don't like you doing it, we also don't like them doing it.
Even then, like some of the ones he pointed out just now, they look more closely like the artist might have just used a reference, not necessarily traced. Like they might have just used a specific screenshot or scene as a reference to draw what they needed to be drawn. Like the Oni one in particular, that didn't really look all that traced. It more looked like he used that as a reference.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about all that because all this is fluff. This isn't even an attempt at a counter argument. This is him hopefully or trying to bury the lead enough to where people won't see what's going on. But let's continue.
To make sure that they got what they're parodying as close to the original, so people are immersed in it more easily, and it's more convincing that way. There is some 3D animation that takes from other properties to make their own, like the short Logorama. The animators of Logorama used a ton of logos and advertising mascots, and even though it is in 3D, the majority of them looked quite similar to their original counterparts. Oh, and the short won an Oscar. There are also parodies and...
I don't care if it won an Oscar. That doesn't absolve you of the nonsense you pulled, and it doesn't absolve them. Continuing.
Fan videos of video games that use a lot of sprites from existing games. Last time I checked, those are using works from other people and sometimes profiting off of that. Why isn't this a big problem? So really, there isn't anything wrong with tracing and parodies. You just got to be honest with it. Caricatures are an insult.
No, just because you're getting called out for tracing doesn't mean it's not a problem when other people, trace. It just means they're not the ones being called out right now. We're talking about you, Antoons. We're talking about why it's wrong when you're doing it because you're the topic of conversation. If they were the topic of conversation, we'd be having that conversation on why they're a bad not a bad tracer, not a bad person, but why it is bad what they are doing. You're the focus though. So we're talking about you and why tracing is bad in the context of you.
Also, caricatures are an insult? No, not necessarily. There's a reason why caricature artists do pretty well at resorts or other places where a bunch of wealthy people tend to go to vacation because they're not insulting. They might exaggerate certain facial features. That's what makes it a caricature. I don't know where you're getting this nonsense from. Let's continue.
Actually, Hold on, I actually want to address something Skullpole said here in my chat, which is, if it was a common industry thing, why are we calling him out in particular? That's like calling out a small shoe company for making shoes in China. I would agree to an extent, but like I said, right now, the topic was Antoons on Daft Pina's video. So naturally, and Daft Pina makes a lot of videos on people who trace, so naturally he thinks tracing is wrong. You can just take a look at his channel and understand that. But the thing is, he's not going to call out everyone universally within one video. Every video is talking about each person specifically. And that means in the context of Antoons and tracing, he had that brought up. And I'm sure Daft Pina's got a lot of people that they want to call out as far as tracing goes. And he's probably not going to stop doing that. But saying that other people trace, so why can't I? That's not really a good defense. Because right now, we're not talking about them. We're talking about you.
Yeah, when I was in school, we had a teacher. We had a teacher that there was a dude I would sit next to who would always do really dumb things. One day he got caught for the stereotypical thing, you had gum. And his response is, well, other kids have gum, why don't you call them out? And her response was very simple, you're the one I caught. It's like, duh, that's why, you're the topic. Continuing.
Is the sincerest form of flattery. So yeah, it is better to be honest with tracing, unlike someone else I know and previously mentioned.
We're going to talk about your honesty here in a little bit, but I want to see what you had to say, buddy. All right. About that entire tirade, here's the thing. Number one, I don't know how much of that is actually trace versus freehand. But secondly, doesn't matter because we're talking about you. If Meat Canyon traced, then he's dumb for tracing too, and he's also wrong. You got mad because you got called out. You got mad because somebody posted about it, and your first instinct, instead of either owning up to it or maybe working to better yourself, was, well, I'm gonna strike back at this guy. I'm gonna make him. I'm gonna prove he's just as guilty as I am. Hypocrisy is a problem. I will agree, but you're not doing yourself any favor here. Continuing.
I'm so sorry. I don't understand why he keeps trying to pull this other people do it, why can't I argument. Like it's so I don't get it. Like I don't get why he thinks that's a valid and good point. Like he should have seen by now multiple people tear that argument down all throughout the years on YouTube alone. Like, whether it was Rice Gum getting called out on Content Cop, whether it was fucking any of the people saying that when Daft Peanut called them out. Like when Fox Goodman. I think Fox Goodman actually tried to make that defense, and that's like one of the things that even blew up Daft Pina into where he's at now. So it's like you should know by this time, this kind of argument, it's not going to do you any favors, and it's not going to actually defeat the criticism against you. It's just trying to deflect, making it seem like someone's only hyper focusing and being mean to you, a big mean bully jerk. But that's not the case. They call out a lot of tracers. You're just one of them.
Also, real quick, thank you for joining us, Rodimus Primal. Yes, the defense is other people do it, so it's okay if I do. Unfortunately, that is his defense for tracing, yes. But parody is completely different. Usually done because you're a fan of the original. Well, yeah, parody in general, that's not the argument here. The argument is you shouldn't trace. As far as Rogue Scholar's comments about political cartoons, I hate them. I hate political cartoons. I find them to be ugly and grotesque. But let's continue.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you should do nothing but tracing. Take Mastar Media for example. He's definitely a tracer through and through. His animations are taken nearly wholesale, frame by frame by quite a few companies, mainly Japanese companies. There's rarely any bit of transformative animation here, so it could stand to reason that he traces too much. Thing is, he has done non-traced videos, but they make Meat Canyons look like Da Vinci paintings by comparison. So in this case, the tracing did not help him grow as an artist. However, I still don't have any problems with his traced parodies, though he does seem to trace in his original works too, so that is obviously something I do not approve. If he has to rely on other people's works to show his actual potential, then that is pretty sad. I'd like to also...
So your argument is tracing's okay if it's parody, but no other time. We'll see if that ever holds up in the future, but let's continue.
Add a topic that isn't directly linked to tracing, but it's just as important to consider when it comes to using existing properties in your own parodies or fan animation. And that topic is 3D and stop motion. In both of these cases, you take an existing model, like from Team Fortress 2 game, and make your own animation with it. Stop motion like Lego animation is highly popular online, and it has a huge community which creates animation from an existing property. Are they in the wrong? I don't think so. It's not who you animate.
Hold on a moment.
Not even the same. Not even close.
Did he literally try to compare tracing in a two-dimensional plane to animating using things like Gary's Mod and Source Filmmaker, or using stop motion animation using things like Legos or even clay or something? Because if he's trying to make that argument, buddy, oh my god, I don't even know how to help you.
Well, the thing is, he's trying to make the equalization here. It's a false equivalency of you're using something somebody else made to do X thing, but that's an easy thing to sit there and say is a stupid comparison. There's a difference between tracing somebody else's work and using something else to move something around. In this case, the argument for Lego will be, well, somebody made that Lego figure. What are you doing here? Somebody made the pencil you draw with too, stupid. It doesn't mean you're wrong for using a pencil. The problem is you're tracing over somebody's work 1-to-1.
It's so ridiculous. Like, not only that, it's Source Filmmaker as a thing, as a tool, is designed so that you can use assets from games like TF2 and stuff like that which is created by Valve. Both of these were created by Valve. So obviously you're not wrong to make animations with this because that is what it's designed for. Not only that, they even have awards for this called Saxies, which I don't really know how they work. I just know they are a thing that exists when it comes to source filmmaker animations. So clearly it's not wrong if Valve created both the assets as well as the stuff to actually make these animations and has awards for actual good, decent animations for this shit.
All right, real quick, Rogue Scholar, or actually, Rodimus said political cartoons are a different animal. I agree, Rodimus, and it's an animal that should be put down to save us all some misery. But let's continue here.
It's how you animate that matters, because you still need to learn how to create believable animation yourself. Not anyone can handle the amount of patience, work, and effort needed to create something nice. But going back to my own videos, there are some points like the Twilight's Deathbed and the Rick and Morty parody where a set of frames and sequences were traced, and in those cases the tracer artist I hired was credited. And even in those videos with traced bits, there is still quite a bit of original animation done from scratch. There is also the YouTube Awards series, which was one of the big things the people in the Twitter Tracer thread brought up. A lot of the points I made before can be applied here as well. This was meant to be a celebration of the animation on YouTube, and of course I wanted to replicate their style as much as I could. So once again, I only used one image to trace them, and then the movements were animated myself. All of the creators featured in the episode were credited. Some of these creators even commented to say that they liked it. And remember, this is a parody, so characters can be used and it would fall under fair use. But if you think that shouldn't be the case for my video, that I shouldn't have used characters that are not mine, then you should probably say the same about Simpsons, Futurama, South Park, Family Guy, American Dad, Drawn Together, and Robot Chicken.
The argument isn't about the characters,
Sorry,
it's the fact that you trace.
I just wanted to mention real quick, I think it's horribly ironic that he's defending himself with fair use when he literally struck down somebody that was also using his footage in fair use and then said he didn't care that it was fair use. This was just to make it a more expedient process.
Also, real quick, Scholar, copyright infringement is probably the most tangible argument, but since the work is transformative, it's a tricky slope since it is being used for parody and satire may be used fair legally. Okay, the argument we're making here is not an argument about legality for the most part. We had some questions about it concerning his fighter game, but the argument isn't about legality. The argument is about morality, and they're not the same. They can interlap. They absolutely do. I'm not going to argue that. But this is about morality and whether or not it's right to trace on a moral level, not a legal one. Let's continue.
It's mostly about the ethics of whether or not, making a lot of money, making a living off of the work of others is something you should be doing. It's not necessarily can he, it's should he. That's the question at play right now. Do you think it is an ethical thing to do to build a channel with 900,000+ subscribers and make a living doing this off of the work of other people, not yourself?
Also, real quick, Rose Scholar, I doubt this guy has a firm understanding of the U.S. copyright laws. Well, no, of course he doesn't. He lives in Estonia. He doesn't even live in the U.S. I wouldn't expect him to, but moving on.
There is also a popular genre on YouTube that revolves around the Doomer meme. These type of videos are created by many different channels, but all of them feature the same Wojak image in one way or another. I see memes as something like communist art, since anyone can take them, edit them, and share them around. So it's kind of funny how most of my detractors who want to smash capitalism are so anal when it comes to using other people's works. Isn't that what communism is about?
Okay.
What type of asinine argument is that?
We're not talking about tracing memes or using memes. These are characters people have put time and effort into, and you are simply essentially plagiarizing them for profit. This is not memetics. This is not anything like that. This is you stealing what somebody else has created effectively. And maybe it may be legal. It could be legal. Very well could be. But it is unethical.
Also, you're wrong about all your detractors, because I'm a detractor of yours and better dead than red any day, big boy. Better dead than red any day. That's a straw man. My detractors are all communists, so this is fine. No, you're stupid. You're making bad arguments. Let's continue.
But anyway, memes like the Wojak and Pepe the Frog have been reappropriated for years. I'm pretty sure the creator of Pepe is still around. Is that immoral in your eyes? Now what about Death Pina's thumbnail? I may have taken part in the video, but I never exactly gave him permission to use my character in the thumbnail. Couldn't that be a form of using someone else's work for profit? But really, Deft has been profiting off of other people's works for years.
Commenting on people's work in a critical manner is not the same as taking their work, repackaging it, and repurposing it, which is what you did. It's what you did. Dummy. Continuing.
Maybe he did not trace in his videos, but he is showing them sometimes without permission. But Deft Pina really thinks tracing is something that should not be done by any artists, it seems. Then I wonder how he feels about these following artists: Roy Lichtenstein and Andy Warhol. These two artists can be considered to be similar in how they handle reappropriating other works, so I'm going to compare them and see how they stand in this tracing debate. Lichtenstein made a living through reappropriating images. He was popular in the 60s through his incredible skill and talent in copying others. His artwork prides itself on found images, working from images appearing in various comic books. So Lichtenstein blew up these drawings to wall size and elevated these images into art. However, comic book artists had voiced frustration at having their creations and genre appropriated with little credit and no money. People have said he plagiarized works, simply reproducing the work of the original comic artists without adding much, according to the comics artist Mark Ellerby. He expressed respect for Lichtenstein's talents in works like We Rose Up Slowly, but Ellerby also felt that Lichtenstein's paintings of single frames did not do much justice to the narratives of comic books that could be hundreds of pages long. Art Spiegelman.
You just destroyed your own argument. Well, what about this guy? Well, here's some detracting statements about him. It doesn't matter if they're popular, which it seems to be your entire issue here. Whether or not people notice or decry other people isn't the point. You are. Continuing.
This is very strange because with this point that he just made, it seems like he completely described the exact situation he's in and tried to use it to somehow negate the validity of his own situation, even though it just shows that this is something that people will naturally be upset about. They will have they will have opinions that are negative towards you over this shit. Like trying to use this to defend yourself, all you've really done is show a parallel example, and that there were people who were, in some ways, rightly so, critical of those people for the decisions they made.
It's a dumb argument. Let's continue.
The creator of the graphic novel Mouse felt the same way. He even felt similarly about Warhol by saying Lichtenstein did no more or less for comics than Andy Warhol did for soup. Even with this controversy, Lichtenstein still enjoyed worldwide acclaim, and his works continue to sell tens of millions of dollars, even 2 decades after his death. Still, I would have to admit here that tracing is not fair. Now let's compare that to Warhol. Warhol was famous for his art that was pretty much traced from other works, most notably the Campbell's soup can. He has created nearly identical images for a lot of products, people, and even other artwork. For example, in 1963, the painting Mona Lisa was being toured in the United States to ease tensions regarding NATO. Warhol recognized the iconic status of the painting and adapted it to his own style. One of his works, 30 Are Better Than One, repeats this image 30 times to transform one woman's smiling visage into a pattern. Warhol tried this transforming one image through multiple images idea a year earlier. As after Marilyn Monroe passed away, he worked on a series of paintings of the movie star. The portrait was taken from a Niagara published image. The Marilyn series was actually Warhol's third attempt at screen printing to create.
I love the fact that he has a copyright claim prevention when he has no problem copyright striking other people. Just commenting on that, I find that amusing. Continuing.
8 nearly identical images. So it is safe to assume that screen printing pictures like these became his signature technique. Warhol made hundreds of Marilyn paintings, taking on various color schemes throughout his career, experimenting with vivid hues that became iconic of pop art. Warhol also appropriated the photographs by modern photography editor Patricia Caulfield for his Flower series. Caulfield sued Warhol, but the two later settled. This incident was the only time Warhol faced a copyright lawsuit during his career built largely on appropriating images, and it did lead Warhol to focus more on his original works. All of the art that he made was actually illegal, and even Campbell's thought about suing Warhol, but the publicity was good enough for the company that doing so could hurt their image more than help. And remember, Warhol is beloved by many. Even when he moved on to his original works, his best remembered and regarded works are...
Go ahead.
So I just want to point out that the statement there was that Campbell's considered suing Warhol, but they didn't because it could hurt their image. That's not a statement that it was fair use. It's a statement that they didn't want to potentially harm their own image by, suing him. So I don't understand if he's trying to make that argument that this is all like okay and it's allowed 100%. that point alone, like, it's a small segment of what he said right now. I get that, but that part alone, it kind of leans towards it's not okay in every context, if that's what you're arguing.
I just think the whole, well, other people liked him, therefore, what's the problem? Dude, people like Harvey Weinstein, too. It's irrelevant. Let's see here, by Goody Possum YT. He's a hypocrite if he's going to put copyright claim prevention when Antoon literally effing filed copyright infringement to anyone who said something about him. Yes, you're correct. That's genuine hypocrisy, and I will point it out and laugh at it. Let's continue.
Still, his art's copying from others. Makes me curious what Deft would say about them. Honestly though, maybe he took inspiration more than people would think. You see, I thought that since Deft Pina was so interested in art, that maybe he did some art himself, so I asked him to show me any of his work. What's your account on DeviantArt?
It has since been deleted. Not much was on there. Focused more on drawing personally.
Oh, why delete it? Where can I see your drawings?
I didn't want it up anymore. You can see my drawings in videos or on Twitter. Focused a lot more on video work since around 2016.
Don't you have a single place where you have all your art? I don't want to scroll through Twitter to find pieces of it.
They are archived on HDD. I can show you some later if you'd like.
Yes, please. Will you show me your art?
Sure, I can send links later today.
Oh, speaking of which, have you transferred your art yet?
Not yet. You'll be notified when I do so.
But nothing came. I didn't think too much of it at first, but still wondered what took him so long. I then noticed a few tweets some time later that talked about Deft Pina's past, that his art back in the day was a bit controversial for a certain reason. After some digging, I finally found out what he likes to draw, that he used to be called Derp Couch, and where to look for more information, which was at Meme Center. It was there that I found out the truth. Deft Pina used to be a tracer himself.
Yes, used to be. It's something he has very much so stated that he regrets and no longer does. This isn't the gotcha you want it to be.
See, what this is actually what he's doing here is what he's trying to do is make Daft Pina look bad to devalue all of his criticisms against him. This is an attack on his character without actually arguing against the points he actually was making. It's trying to demonize Daft Pina so that you won't listen to him. I apologize if I keep butchering his name. It's just trying to devalue his points by attacking his character, not attacking the points he's made. And that, in my opinion, is one of the most scummy things he could do in this context. And to me, it just leads more credence or credibility. Sorry, I'm a little bit all over the place. It makes it seem a lot more credible that this guy's like pulling shit right out of his ass.
Like somebody who used to smoke telling you smoking is bad. You don't turn to that person if you're smoking and go, well, you used to smoke, haha, gotcha, got him. No, he's telling you it's bad because he regrets ever doing it because of the damage it's done. You dummy. You simpleton. You cretin. Go ahead.
For those listening, I do smoke. Please don't start smoking. It's a terrible habit. It's very expensive, and it's going to ruin your fucking lungs and your wallet.
Correct. It killed my grandpa. That was not fun to watch. Continuing on.
So he used to trace and not give the artist he traced from any credit, and denied it when someone called him out for it back in the day. Deft even apparently called out someone named Gearboy for tracing.
I want everybody to take a real close look at how long ago this was. 5 years. Dafton is like, I think, really early 20s. Matter of fact, let me look that up real quick. How old is Daft Pina? 22. He's 22, which means this tracing was when he was like at the earliest 17. He was a kid. Stupid. You imbecile. All right, we've got to keep going.
When they were both younger, 5 years ago, yet Deft did just that. So it appears that Deft was in fact the enemy he sought out to destroy. His art couldn't compare to others' work, so he decided to dedicate his life as an art critic instead, searching for...
Whoa, hold on real quick. Brittle, that's extremely kind of you. I mean, 69 nice, I agree, but... Ooh, if that was a typo, let me know. I'll get that back to you. Good God. Very generous. Thank you. Continuing.
Hold on. No, actually, I love this because we're going into like a little bit of backstory. It's like he's giving us the deep lore. I want to see how far this rabbit hole goes. I want to see what he makes up and pulls out of his ass.
All right, let's continue. I had to backtrace a little bit. I hit the wrong button.
For tracing when they were both younger, 5 years ago, yet Deft did just that. So it appears that Deft was in fact the enemy he sought out to destroy. His art couldn't compare to others' work, so he decided to dedicate his life as an art critic instead, searching for drama to continue afloat.
Citation needed.
Wait, hold on. He's saying he just became what he wanted to destroy. Like he was what he became or set out to destroy. Was he a fucking Batman villain, dude? Like, what are you talking about? It's YouTube. It's not that serious.
You were supposed to bring balance to the art, not leave it in darkness. But
He's not trying to ruin anybody. He's out here making videos criticizing people who do stupid and scummy things. It's not that serious. He's not trying to destroy anybody. He's not some nefarious fucking supervillain, okay? Calm down.
And on top of that, like, seriously, dude? Well, he's not good at art, so that's why he's a critic. That's not necessarily true. Daft does still draw. He literally does reviews of tablets because he uses them to draw. He told you, look on my Twitter, and you decided to be lazy. And I'm sorry, I'm going to be uncharitable here. I don't buy that it just dawned on you. I think you got super upsetty spaghetti and were trying your best to find dirt. And it hit like nothing. Continuing.
However, he had to do quite a bit to get to the position he is at right now, because much of his original content has been deleted or made private. He has antagonized a lot of people quite unfairly, like reviewing the porn of Jaden Animations and also making 2 videos heavily criticizing her for how she dealt with her eating disorder.
Yes, and again, he's also very publicly apologized for these things and made it very clear he was in the wrong. That's what common sense people that have the grasp of ethics do when they do something wrong or they're incorrect. They address it. They address it honestly. You, on the other hand, are trying to shift blame around instead of addressing what's been said about you directly. Continuing.
When he started to make certain friends like Meat Canyon, Deft deleted those videos. He's also had
Daft deleted a lot of them well before he started interacting with Meat Canyon. What are you doing on about, doofus?
quite a long and somewhat angry history of being at war with storytime animator Odds One Out. Odds One Out makes his videos for younger audience, even writing children's books.
Hold on. Can you pause this for me?
Pause.
Is he trying to argue that he's at war with the Odd Ones Out? Like, I don't think that's in any way, shape, or form true. I don't. Just because he mentions the Odd Ones Out every now and again, and he's reviewed some of their products, or I don't know if it's his or their, whoever's working on it, and as well as some of their channels and stuff like that. I mean, I wouldn't call that a war. I'd call that a couple of reviews, maybe positive, maybe negative, who knows? But that's hardly a war. There wasn't any, like, battles. Nobody got shot and, like needed triage, you know? Calm down. Like, I know
that would make it more intense.
Yeah, he's using this really, really outlandish terminology to try to make it seem like it was a lot more of a big deal than it actually was. But it really wasn't. It was a couple of reviews. One was on, his game that was like Spoons. I think one was on his book. One was on his other book. And like one was on his channel, I think. That's really it, as best my awareness.
I've seen those videos. Generally, his critiques are fair. Very, very fair. Very direct, without too much malice in them. Buddy, if you think he's mean, you ought to see what I say about comic books on this channel or other television programs. You ought to see how I tear into people who use my theology for evil. Trust me, he ain't nothing but a lightweight when it comes to anger, buddy. You ain't seen nothing. Continuing.
That seems to always be there to trash it. He even attacked the teenager once, who happened to be another storytime animator. And it is ironic considering who he's...
Hold on. He attacked a teenager. Okay. Hi, Pot. Name's Kettle. Have we met?
You know, there's a difference between saying something mean to a teenager about their art and asking about their genitals. Like, that's like if if a kid is in my lawn and I hit him with the hose, and if you run the kid over, then you saying our actions are equal. No, they are not equal. They're not even close. But continuing.
He's been trying to grandstand as of late. The only reason he has an audience with certain woke individuals is because of his erasure of past videos. If he kept them up, he would not have the audience, because he has made edgy jokes and even told one storytime creator to quit.
Dummy, his audience was built from those videos. That's where they came from.
It's like, I guarantee you, like, It's just I just don't understand this. Like, because he deletes videos, therefore he's dishonest. That's not how that works. I mean, almost every YouTuber has either privated or deleted videos because they either weren't proud of the video itself, the quality. Maybe they thought some of the points they made were pretty weak in hindsight. Like, there's a million and one reasons to delete your videos, and I assure you, anyone who spent at least a year plus on YouTube has probably deleted at least one video. It's not that deep. He's not a shitty person just because he deletes videos, and it's not some like conspiracy, like that's not how that works. Okay, calm down.
Continuing.
Deft had even had a war with someone similar to Odds One Out, named Tim Tom, at least I think it is. But point is, Tim
You think it is, so you don't know. Continuing.
refused to let Deft make a video and called Deft out as an attention seeker. Though to be fair, they collaborated sometime later. But getting back to tracing, he has been trying to push against tracing as hard as he could, even talking harshly about someone for tracing memes. But if he likes someone,
His video about that guy isn't just about memes. It's about a lot of hardcore tracing he did on things he was paid for that he procrastinated on because he played video games instead of doing what he was paid to do. If you're going to make a statement, make it factual.
like Meat Canyon, he looks past any tracing.
Hold
he
on,
has
Leo.
done.
You mind pausing it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Busy Robot Hands, thank you for the super chat. It's $10 super chat. This is pathetic. What an absolute garbage example of an artist. How is he at this level and yet he needs to trace? And then point fingers like, well, others do it, so I can. Pathetic. Thank you for the super chat, Busy Robot Hands. I very much appreciate it. And I totally agree with that comment.
So do I. Continuing.
You can see Deft's video on Meat Canyon yourself, where he avoids the tracing as hard as he can, not to hurt his friends' feelings. But that obviously shows the level of journalism Deft Pina is offering. Not objective.
He's not a journalist. He's not a journalist.
Yeah, okay. I want to point this out because a lot of, and I don't know why people keep making this mistake. I'm going to point this out again for anybody watching. A commentary channel on YouTube, they are not a journalist. And if they brand themselves as a journalist or the news, they are making an error in doing so. A commentary channel, what they are doing is presenting the story, the skeleton of which, mind you, it's not every part of it, as well as their interpretation and opinion on it. You're going to get bias. You're going to get a very reduced version of the story to fit into an amount of time that will, be in the video.
Yeah, and
So saying journalist, it's inaccurate, and it's an inaccurate portrayal of what you are actually seeing. He's no more a journalist than you are just because you made this video.
Like, I only know personally, like one-to-one, one individual who has a journalism degree, and that's Michael Fringe from Retro Blasting, and he talks about old school toys and shows. Is he a journalist, Antoons? Is he doing journalism on toys? I want to know. Real quick, Riddle of Lightning. I think it might be in the water, and Estonia is lagging behind most European countries. Well, clearly. In other words, over a third of their beaches do not meet the highest quality standards. Good Possum YT says, instead of Antoon getting on people for something they did maybe a long time ago, he could have gotten on Kalabi Productions. I don't know what that is, but we're going to continue.
Objective by any means. A part of me does wonder why some people listen to Deft Pina if he does not seem to draw art anymore. Now I know about how...
Okay, real quick, you said something about objectiveness, about how he's not objective. Neither are you. You are so far from objective on this, like, good God, you're stupid. And he does do art. You're stupid. Continuing.
Someone does not need to be a chef in order to critique food, but I think he should try and practice just to see if he can take his own criticisms and improve on what he initially tries to do. Something tells me he won't, though, because he wants to be accepted, and that's all he's looking for. I think now...
Are you sure about that, Dr. Freud? Where's your psychology major here, buddy? Because if you have it, you might want to go sit in the mirror for a while.
Fucking armchair psychologist over here. Oh my god. I actually need to address I got another super chat. Jolko Musical sends $2. Thank you very much, Jolko. And the comment is, I'm actually working on a video on him right now. I can't wait to see that, Jolko. When just mentioning everybody to everyone right now, you should subscribe to Jolko Musical. He makes great videos, and honestly, he's got some great things to say about a lot of the people that he's made videos on. I highly recommend him, just as much as I recommend LioConvoy here on stream.
Yeah, I agree too. This dude just makes the dumbest of statements. Let's pick apart some more of this.
Now that this video is almost over, and if he gets all the way till the end, he will think a little more about the pros and cons of tracing.
No, what he's going to think is that you're an idiot because you make bad arguments, and instead of addressing your own flaws, you try to find the same flaws in other people so you don't feel as bad. And
I actually,
go ahead.
this is just absolutely out of this world. The level he probably thinks he's probably patting himself on the back over this response, thinking he knocked it out of the park. But realistically, it's more like he just shot himself right in the foot, because he didn't. Not only did he not so far address any of the real arguments made against him, all he's done is just waffle on for about half an hour on shit that wasn't argued, making a bunch of straw man arguments, or just saying they do it, so why can't I? Why are you picking on me? Because you're the topic of conversation. Oh my god, this man is painfully dumb.
Also, I have to point out the clip he has on there, the thumbnail. It's the first image when you go to Google and type in tracing is okay. And it links to a video where somebody by the name of Shipwreck Samantha points out that tracing is a good thing if you're learning. So you can have a basic understanding of how to start and how to do certain things. You're an idiot. You didn't even know where that video came from. You didn't have a clue where that image came from. You just typed in tracing is okay and went for the very first image to make yourself feel better. Let's continue.
But I'm not holding my breath. Now, I know he mentioned another topic in the video, a topic that started the week after the interview. There has been even more controversy regarding this topic, which is the drama involving Puppy-chan. There is a video on this controversy already made, though many people still ignore it. I will...
Because it's heavily in favor of you and downplays every single bit of garbage you do. That's why. That's why people ignore it, because you're going on about objectivity, but it's only objectivity if it favors you. No. Sit down.
I'm pretty sure that video was his pinned tweet for a while, saying that Daft Pino was like a bad journalist and this is why. And it was just because this video, like you said, is in favor of him. It's objective when it's in his favor, but it's unfair criticism when it's not. And then this is just out of this world. It's completely out of this. It's ridiculous is what it is.
All right, let's see here. Goody Possum YT. He really thought he did something with his crappy arguments points. They were raw as a piece of meat on the sidewalk. I think that's insulting to meat on the sidewalk. All right, continuing.
We'll link the video below, but if you don't have the patience for a 10-minute video, I just want to state
we're already in a 30-minute one. What are you going on about? Continuing.
Some of the main facts from it. First off, Puppy-chan started the drama by replying to my tweets. She quoted me and lectured me on her views, and I did not even know of her existence at the time.
God forbid somebody respond to a tweet on a social media platform, you neurotic idiot. Continuing.
She also had trans on her bio before she removed it, from what I heard. And because of her comic's main character, who is trans, I assumed Puppy-chan was trans as well.
Okay, but let's look at the content. This artist is educating me while living in a fantasy world. Buddy, you live in a fantasy world. Let's continue.
Oh my god, he's like the freaking mayor of Candyland, I swear to God.
Contrary to what has been said and spread around, I did not question her genitals. I simply asked, were you not
born biologically male is questioning their genitals directly.
He just said, I didn't do this, and showed the screenshot of him literally doing, that.
And again, if you're curious about whether or not somebody's trans, there's like several other ways you could ask. If you're curious about the whole, I'm on my period, so I'm kind of big mad, just say, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were trans, or are you not trans, or can you clarify your pronouns, or you could have done this several different ways, but you didn't. Instead, you were trying to be tongue-in-cheek. You knew what you were doing. Don't try to play dumb or innocent now. You're not.
I don't think he's playing. I think he genuinely is dumb, but it's one of the things where it's like, no, I think that's priceless, honestly. It's actually priceless that he says, I didn't do this, and then he shows him doing, that. It's just, I refuse to accept that this is a legitimate human being. This is like something from Neptune. He's a myth. He's something from legend, I don't think this is a person we're dealing with. It is a mythological creature of just, I don't know what.
All right, hold on real quick.
I agree, busy robot hands. This is big brain time. This is 3,000 IQ.
All right, so let's go ahead and continue.
Not born biologically male, in response to the tweet she sent me where she admitted herself that the reason why she is attacking me is because of her period. Because science has said that trans women cannot have periods, and so she would be lying if she was a trans woman. Thus, I called her out. I only found out later that Puppy-chan was biologically female. But it was already too late as the drama was at its peak. Still, I have yet to see a single threat from my followers towards her. If you do have
Is anybody making claims of threats? I mean, is anybody? Because I haven't heard anything of that.
Honestly, it's just one of those things, regardless if there's any kinds of threats, if it's only really a threat if you think the threat is credible. Do you think anyone on Twitter who's DMing you anything negative, do you actually think they're going to show up on your doorstep and do something? Like, because then go to the police, like call the cops at that point. But honestly, if you're just going to say, oh, well, I got death threats from people on Twitter, it's like, well, it's only really a threat if you consider it a credible threat to yourself. So you're either admitting that, you're a pussy in that regard, which I don't think you are, at least you're not trying to, or it's not a credible threat.
All right, we're going to continue.
an example, I would like to see it. However, I have dozens of screenshots proving that many of her followers doing just that, sending me death threats. Also,
hey, you're not responsible for your followers' stupidity, and she's not responsible for hers. That's basic common sense.
Nobody is ever going to be responsible for the actions of other people. That's just asinine. Like, yeah, they follow her, great, but she's not controlling them. Like, it's not like the Illuminati. She's not a puppet master. She's not controlling the strings. She doesn't have the ability to say, everyone go send the horde. This isn't how it works. That's not how that works.
All right, so here's some more nonsense from him.
Also, just because she's at a certain age, non-binary, black, and has autism, that does not exempt her from criticism.
You're right, and it doesn't exempt you from criticism, from being stupid and responding in the most asinine way possible. Like, you can try to play pretend that finding this image and posting it to your followers wasn't to get them to make fun of them, but I don't believe you. I just don't believe you. Just a note to everyone who saw the lock icon on my account. These past 2 days, the mob from multiple accounts was growing bigger, and after I asked how this trans person can have periods, all hell broke loose. She has over 60K followers. Oh no, you poor, poor victim. You poor, poor, poor victim. How dare
Leo,
somebody say mean things? Go ahead.
Just wanted to interject very quickly. Got a super chat here, $2 from Hallie Satanic. He failed clown school. Christ, he's dumb. I totally agree with you, Hallie. And honestly, also, Hallie's one of my patrons. Hi, Hallie. Thank you for the $2 super chat. I appreciate your patronage as well. And we should play some Among Us later. Thank you very much, and I agree with that comment.
All right, continuing.
After I posted the Pill Fighter video featuring her character, Papi-chan was the one who contacted me and apologized for the harassment and death threats I got.
Let's see here. Hey dude, can you just leave me alone? Delete the video. I'm not a diaper fur, and I can't read this because of the thing about what's it, but get a rise out of me, but honestly I don't care anymore. Please. I'm sorry. You're missing or forgetting or you're omitting all that beforehand. You said, well, she apologized. Well, yeah. Because you made a video mocking her, and because it gave her anxiety, because it's still a literal child at this point. Of course children apologize.
This is idiotic.
This is idiotic.
This is causing me, like, just my brain, it hurt, it rejected.
And here he says, I would like you to explain to your followers that I thought you were a male to female trans. I never asked to see your genitals. I only asked you if you were born male because of your comic. A lot of people think I asked you to show me your private parts, and this is why I get so much hate. I will not make any more tweets about you from now on. I just want your followers to listen to what happened. Dude.
He's treating it like a fucking hostage negotiation. Bro, it's Twitter beef. It's not like put the money in the bag and no one gets it. Okay, that's not what this is. It's just Twitter drama. You can clarify this yourself if you want to, but you can't start trying to hold people hostage and say you must do this, you must do this. No one must do anything. And honestly, Puppy-chan is not responsible for the actions of other human beings. That is literally not within Puppy-chan's control. Correct,
and more importantly, you're the adult, you idiot! Holy crap. Continuing.
However, because of the death threats and spam that I continuously received on a daily basis, I was not ready to forgive her just yet.
Again, she's not responsible for them. You poor baby. Is this the first time you've ever had people threaten you on the internet? Really? Because if it is, you're a blessed individual. Because, Coyote, how often do you get threatened?
People threaten me and talk shit about me almost on the regular. Like, I get DMs. You know what? I can just go into my fucking DMs on that I haven't even answered, and I can look at least half of them who say you're a zoophile because you're a furry, or just the word pedophile for reasons they don't know anything about me. I get slandered. I get said all sorts of shit about me. But that's being on the internet. That's being a creator online. You get shit talked about you. Just learn to deal with it. Learn to grow up. Also, before I get off this tangent, I got a super chat from Busy Robot Hands for $4.99. I appreciate that, Busy Robot Hands. The comment is, "It's beyond horrible that he's weaponizing her apology. That is disgusting." That is actually, like, really fucking gross. I agree. Like, the fact that he's trying to weaponize the apology is absolutely abhorrent.
Also, shout out to Couch Boys for pointing this out. I love how one of the threats, what you see here, is just lick my balls.
Wait, is it really?
Yeah,
Wait, I don't...
look at the screen for Furry Gamer 9, the last one. Look,
Furry Gamer, oh, that guy's a legend.
Dude,
I'm gonna have to throw him a follow on Twitter. That's funny.
I had a dude, like, threatening me on Twitter a while ago, back when I had one that functioned, going on about how I know where you live, and he gave me a weird address. I'm like, what are you talking about? He went on to an old, like, Transformer message board, Toy Arc. He went on a Toy Arc, and he found the wrong LioConvoy, and he went through his eBay account because it was linked, and he's like, I have your, I know where you live. I'm like, that's not even me. This is not even me, you idiot. Here's my actual account on that. He did not believe me. That dude disappeared, but just it's not uncommon. Like, I'm sorry that your poor foreskin thick hide got your fifis hurt here, Antoons. Suck it up like an adult. Moving on.
Hold on. If somebody had told me that they know where I live, I'd have just been like, why don't you come over and we'll have dinner? I got candles. We can have it over candlelight.
Oh, God.
John actually feared what her fans would say if she publicly buried the hatchet with me.
Because she's a child. Because she's a child. You idiot.
She did not even want to retweet the agreement I made due to this fear.
You poor baby.
However, we did state to our followers to not harass each other, and it seemed like things would get better. Though the day after the agreement, a friend of Death Pina sent him out of contact screenshots from my Discord server. The screenshots showed conversations I had with other fans before the agreement was made. Deft then posted the screenshots on Twitter.
Alright, you say it was after the agreement was made. Or before, or whatever. Before the agreement was made. Doesn't excuse the nonsense you were going on in there. And you say lacking context. You gonna give us the context? The answer's no, because I've watched this video already. You don't give any context.
Yeah, this man is just an absolute degenerate. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. He's an absolute degenerate.
Continuing.
Causing the drama to reignite, and Daft even accused me of planning to backstab Puppy-chan on her 18th birthday. If anything, this further proves that Daft is trying to just live.
Hold on, pause it. You said you were going to in the screenshot. Those were your words. How is he taking that out of context or misrepresenting it? You said it.
Yeah. And also, I love the fact that he talks about how Daft doesn't draw when he's literally in this paused portion in front of a tablet with a pen. It's amazing. It's amazing. Continuing.
Live on the drama. If he wanted things to get better, he would have confronted me about this first. After all, I was on his Discord's contact list for a while. But
no one owes you that. No one. No one owes you your preferred method to deal with you. And frankly, if I was in the situation where I actually considered you an enemy instead of just some random idiot on the internet, I would do to you what I did to the last pedophile I dealt with, and I would hit you when you weren't expecting it, when you didn't see it coming, and in a way you could not defend yourself. That's what you do to an enemy. You're under no obligation to play fair with you. Go ahead.
Poor baby. Big bad commentary channel didn't play by your rules. Poor baby. Poor baby. No one cares, Antoons. No one cares. Like, just because you would have preferred it doesn't... We don't live in a world full of your preferences. So just because you would have preferred it doesn't mean that's the decision he's going to make. He made the decision that he probably thought was the best one to make given the context. And given that everyone was under the impression you were not saying what you were in your server, yeah, I'd have made the same call he did and made that wildly public.
Also, we'll get there in a minute, Goody Possum YT. Let's continue.
Because he's apparently on a crusade to take me down, he posted those screenshots under his own narrative. He's twisting everything I say and do to make the drama even worse.
No, you continue to perpetuate it because you don't like the fact that you got smacked. You clearly have an aversion to controversy and an aversion to anybody taking you to task. Go ahead.
I forgot what I was going to say, actually. Let's just continue.
Sorry.
But I've said enough about Deft now. I see there were a lot of people who had a major problem with my Pill Fighter trailer featuring Puppy-chan, but I have yet to see actual evidence of a cartoon dog being 17 years old. I know some of you said that this is sexual.
Oh my god. Oh my god. This is literally the lolly argument. It's like they're drawn this way, but they're actually 300 years old. It's like, oh, I was secretly hoping he would take it this direction. I really was, because it's so just absurd, this argument.
Well, here's the thing. She uses this icon, this setup, to identify online. Like, this is her OC, this is her persona, whatever goofy thing you want to call it. He's about to make the really dumb argument, but here's the thing, Antoons, you're not clever. She's shooting blood out as a comment to her being on her period. Well, I don't see any evidence of the character being 17. You're not clever. You're not clever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if there's any evidence of the character being 17. You're making it as a representation of a 17-year-old. It doesn't matter contextually if the character is 17. What it represents is the conflict between a 17-year-old that a 31-year-old man had, and then by them shooting blood out of their crotch. So it's one of those things that it's still wildly inappropriate. And you can try pulling the little lolly argument all you want to. It's not going to change the fact that everyone knows what you were really saying with that, which is, referencing the entire drama that went down with a 17-year-old.
And also, you're in my generation. You're in Coyote here's generation. Did your parents just fail to raise you? Or did they take turns failing to raise you? Just let me know in the comments, because I know you'll comment. Continuing.
Of a minor. But first things first, who is this minor we are talking about here? Puppy-chan the human or Puppy-chan the fictional cartoon dog? Looking at the online age converter, 17 in dog years is actually 159 in human years. Wouldn't that be a bit too old for Puppy-chan in real life?
The fact that you think that's clever is just mind-boggling. Go ahead, Coyote.
He pulled the lolly argument. He pulled it. He did it. I knew it. I knew he'd do it.
He's just dumb. Let's continue.
I also see some people keep bringing up a theory that my cartoon character, Mr. Freaks, is actually me or my persona. Then who are you listening to and looking at right now?
An idiot.
Last time I checked, I did not have a tail or gray eyebrows. I even made a video some time ago showing how the real-life me is turning into this avatar version I'm using here. So just like all of my other cartoon characters, Mr. Freaks is not exactly me. Of course, all of these characters have bits and pieces of my personality in them, but ultimately none of them are meant to represent my real-life identity. So
that's irrelevant, because the onus isn't about whether or not you are Mr. Freaks, I think you called him, in that trailer. The problem is you animated this kid's OC shooting period blood at you, and you're about to make some really, really dumb excuse for that. So let's go ahead and listen to that.
Hold on. I just need to interject real quick. I just got another super chat from Three Sided House for $5. Twitter seems to always bring out the worst in people. Not much more I can say than that. But seriously, this 31-year-old man needs to act his age. Yeah, he really does. And needs to stop asking minors about their crotchal region. I think that's a good piece of advice too. Like, you just don't do that, Antoons. Don't ask minors on Twitter about their reproductive system in general.
I agree. You're an adult. You should know better. Moving on.
Freaks is my creation. I decide whatever age he is. So for the Pill Fighter game, his age is 17.
Yeah, it still doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You want to know why it doesn't matter? Because you're still showing somebody's OC and just arguing that, well, now his age is 17, so haha, that's not a counter-argument to what people's issue here is. Idiot. Moving on.
Is that fair enough for Puppy-chan to be his opponent? After all, they're the same age in this cartoon video game. But about the period blood, I don't...
A real quick point of contention that I want you to point out. Here in the States, I don't know about Estonia. Here in the States, concerning minors. If one minor sends porn of themselves to another minor, they can both be charged for possession of child porn, and one can be charged for distribution of child porn. They're both kids, so therefore it's okay, is a really dumb argument to make. Continuing.
I don't see anything wrong with depicting a body function in a cartoon world. I grew up playing Ren and Stimpy and Boogerman games, which had a lot of gross moves for the characters, such as booger flicking, farting, burping, and vomiting.
Did it have people shooting period blood? Because if not, that's irrelevant.
Yeah, did anyone of those characters actually do a tantric money shot as their attack? Is that what they did? Because that would be the equivalent. If they didn't, then no, your argument is flawed.
Did they organize them on characters too? Because that's also a biological function. So are you good with showing that with underage characters? I'm curious. Get back to me on that, Antoons.
So I don't see how period blood has anything to do with sexualization. It's simply a disposal of unwanted body material. It's not like there was something
You're a disposal of unwanted body material.
Got him.
something erotic happening on the battlefield, and you can't even see where the blood is coming from, as there is a black bar at all times.
It's implied, and we're not talking about eroticism. We're talking about the moral aspect of having a character this underage shooting period blood at somebody.
It doesn't matter if you put a black bar over the crotch. It doesn't. Everyone knows what is happening here. They also know what this character represents and what you're actually trying to say here. So it's still all kinds. It's 31 fucking flavors of inappropriate. This is 50 pounds of inappropriate in a 5-pound sack, my dude.
Correct. Continuing.
You could use your imagination and think of anything being under the bar, like a little gun attached.
Except for the fact that it's a censored bar. It very clearly is a censored bar, and that has a very specific indication there. And if you want to play pretend, well, it could be anything. It could even be a gun. Then why didn't you depict a gun? Oh, that's right,
Yeah.
because you didn't intend it to be a gun. You knew what you were doing. You're making excuses now because you got held accountable for what you did. Oh, you poor baby. Go ahead.
Yeah, the question, like there's something that I love to reference, which it's a video by College Humor, which is talking about a character that's like in the context of the video, the character is like 300 some years old, and it's just like because he looks like a kid though. It's like, why are these two characters making fucking bedroom eyes at each other? That's a kid. And it's just like, well, he's actually 370 some years old. Then the guy asks, well, why did you draw him that way? So like, if you wanted to have this argument of you can imagine anything here, why did you need to draw the censored mark? Why didn't you just draw the gun? Why didn't you draw anything? Why did you draw it that way?
Because he's stupid and he thought he'd get away with it.
Well, yeah, I guess he thought he could get away with it because he's stupid. So, you're right. It's just stupid. This is just dumb. This is idiocy at its finest.
Continuing, because we're almost done.
Attached to the belly that shoots once activated. Again, Puppy-chan is not a dog in real life as far as I know. She's just a furry, who by the way does this type of art herself.
Irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant. Here you go again with the whataboutisms. I don't care.
If anything, I'd say my Rick and Morty parody had a more controversial scene where I animated a cartoon version of Dan Harmon humping a doll. Well, maybe it's not so controversial, as he did it in real life anyway. People who already have a problem with my comics will of course deny basic logic, to accuse me of whatever gets me in trouble. Even after all that has transpired, the drama is still thriving. I'm still keeping my word in that Puppy-chan will not appear in the game anymore. It's the least I can do now. You can actually see in the DMs that I and
Let's see here. Detransitioners deserve a voice too, but I know a lot of trans people that are happy being da-da-da. Yeah, I also have trans friends. They are happy, but others are not. It's not like I hate trans people when I make comics about them. And he shows the same comic that was attacking a straw man. I'm not a racist, guys. I have black friends. Fantastic. Continuing.
Yeah, literally.
Go ahead.
Literally, that was the comic he made earlier. Like, this is just. Oh my god.
Puppy-chan got along the day before Deathpina posted out of context screenshots. And if you still think that I don't want friends with opposing political views, then why did I make this tweet asking my followers to support the person who got harassed by their friends and followers?
That person supported you, and that's why they lost all their friends and followers. And nobody's ever making the argument about how you don't want friends with different political views. Nobody made that claim. Nobody.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people love having friends with different political views because it challenges what they already believe and challenges the ideas that may or may not be wrong. And honestly, like trying to make that argument like everybody but you is trying to say that you shouldn't have friends that challenge your political views is just bogus. It's just dumb. That's not how everyone thinks. You're not some grand like scholar who came up with this thought first and was just like, oh my God, what if we all had friends that didn't believe what we all thought? It's not like that. You're not fucking Aristotle. You're not I want to say Achilles again, but I know that that's not a philosopher, but
He's
you
not.
get the
He's
point.
not even
He's not Plato.
Diogenes. He's not even Diogenes.
You're not Plato. You're not Epictetus. You're not some grand thinker. You're just an asshole on the internet. That's all you are, like any one of us.
Continuing.
For simply liking my animation. This person stands for most of the things I made fun of in my comics, yet I had no problem helping them out and giving advice on animation in the DMs. Still, I took down that tweet because the person got even more backlash from their friends who cannot stand me, and these friends even forced the person to publicly apologize for liking my work. What does that say about art and politics?
What that says is that you are not somebody that they should be following, and that if people react that strongly to you, you might want to ask why first and foremost and address it then. The fact that you acted like a complete clown this entire time and you're trying to play pretend that you're the victim and everybody else is wrong instead of addressing their points logically and actually making an argument just proves that you're a moron.
Anyway, this video has been...
Honestly, hold on, pause that again. I want to make a point right here. See, the fact that they got punished for the shit you did, that seemed like it was really secondary within all of this, to the point that you're just like, oh, look how I helped them. Yeah, but they only got hurt because of you. That's just you fixing a problem that you caused your friend. That's not something that should be, you should get like a claim for. You shouldn't be like, oh, what a good guy, what a helping hand. No, that was you just doing what any human being, what any decent friend should do. So trying to use that like it's to your argument's advantage is dumb, because that just makes you a human being who's not a morally bankrupt piece of shit within that one context. So don't argue like, oh, I'm a great guy who builds up people, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, they only got hurt because of you. You were just fixing a mistake you made.
Correct. Continuing.
Going long enough, but I think I've covered all the things related to the false accusations. So in the end, what did Daft Peanut's video mean to me? I think this Kiwi Farms post sums it up quite well.
Let me summarize this video to save everyone else from wasting 15 minutes. Racist joke comics are bad because they turn people racist. If you laugh or tell racist jokes, you're actually a racist trying to hide your racism with humor. Nothing new, nothing interesting, nothing persuasive. The same worn-out argument used in the early 2000s against violent video games, except this time it's about edgy humor. It's also tiresome.
I'm not going to comment on that because, dude's welcome to have his opinion, but here's the thing. There's two things in this world I cannot stand. Outside of course, things like pedophiles, animal abusers, stuff like that. I can't stand liars, and I can't stand cowards. In that call with Daft, you were asked if you believe or have the views of a comic that was shared with you from somebody that you spend time with, apparently. Amount of time I don't know. And instead of answering, you went on about how it's a joke. If you hold these values, you hold these views, at least have the testicular fortitude to own it, admit to it, and talk about it. It's all just a joke. Where's the honesty there? Where's the decency? Where's the intelligence? It's not there. If you're going to do this nonsense, at least own it. You're too much of a pussy to even do that.
This man's a dipshit. Like, that's really all I got. It's the takeaway from this. He's a first-class dipshit. He's a degenerate and a dipshit. You can quote me on that one. I will stand by that sentiment. You could say it right to him in DMs, and if you want to. I don't give a shit. And if he asks me about it, or if anyone asks me about it, Antoons is a degenerate and a dipshit. That is my takeaway from this. Quote me on it.
I just think he's a moron, and I wish that he would do well. I wish he would do better. I genuinely hope at some point he reevaluates. That's my value. I don't care for his comics. I don't generally care for his animation, though I won't doubt the man does have skill in the craft. It's just not my taste in terms of deathbed stuff and whatnot. I think he missed the point of loss and why people find it funny. But I hope he chooses to go a different route in life, because it's clear he is very conflict adverse. He doesn't know how to deal with it at all. And I look forward to this being copyright struck because we're talking about him.
Oh, for sure. That's going to be fun. I'm totally looking forward to that. I really am. I think it's going to be funny. It's going to be fucking hilarious.
And Antoons, if you do listen to this, feel free to comment. I'd be happy to pass you my Discord. We can chat sometime. Genuine conversation, not just sitting here crapping on you. Genuine conversation. I'd like to talk to you sometime. Any other closing thoughts, Coyote?
Fair. Well, I was just going to say there's a good to fair chance he will look at either one version of the stream, whether it's one on your channel or the one on mine, because he's been looking at channels that are, below 1,000 subscribers. He's really invested in his own ego in this, his own hubris. So I think he's going to see this at some point. But yeah, Antoons, if you wind up seeing this on my channel, because I have no doubt you're going to see it on one of the two, I just want you to know you're a dipshit, you're a degenerate, and honest to God, I think you're pretty much a disgrace to art and YouTubers in general.
All right, and Coyote, as always, is welcome to his opinion. But again, special thanks to my patrons. I appreciate you guys supporting me, and I appreciate you all joining us. Goody Possum YT says, I'm betting you my whole life the idiot is going to copyright strike this. I wouldn't make that type of bet. I don't tend to gamble. But we're going to go ahead and call it a night, and we'll check with you guys later on.
Yeah. I also want to give a quick thank you to my patrons as well. I appreciate each and every one of you. And yeah, that's going to do it for this stream on my channel too.
Take it easy, guys.